Hello, everybody. So glad you guys could join us. I'm here with Ellie and Alyssa, and I think Adam will be joining us. I'm not sure if when he's coming, but I just want to say I have everybody's links to their books in the description again. So if you guys want to check any of our books, I'm here with some amazing writers. Definitely highly recommend their books.
Thank you. Highly recommend your books as well.
Thank you.
Everybody here is fun.
Yeah.
Yes. I am all caught up with Ellie's books, and Alyssa's books is actually the next one on my TBR. I just haven't been reading because I've been so focused on finishing this book I'm currently writing because I'm so close. But once it is done, I am going to be reading book 3 in her series, which I'm very excited for. Is the next one on my TBR.
So
Book 3 is fun.
So you guys want to go ahead and jump into the first sprint?
I think so, if we're all comfortable.
Okay, so be back in 30 minutes.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Awesome.
See you on the other side.
Hello.
Hi, friends.
Hi. So glad you could join us.
Hello.
How was everybody's sprint?
It was okay.
Pretty good.
Successful. Yeah.
Do you guys get a lot of writing done?
I got about 400 words, which is okay.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm in the middle of editing something right now, so I'm focused on that, but I'm plowing away at it. Yep.
Nice.
That's fair.
I got about a page written, but
Right on.
it's flowing, so that's always good.
I've started this chapter. I was just trying to figure out how to get the battle started, and it's finally started.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Love a good battle sequence.
Yes, I love battles. Right now, it's a kind of more of a magical battle, so just trying to find different types of magic for them to use against each other.
Yeah. That's pretty much where I'm at too, funnily enough. So
Is
it's
it
the big
mostly
end
like?
of the year. What was your? You go first, Adam.
I wanted to ask about the magic you're both using. Is it like elemental magic, like fire, earth, air type stuff, or is it more like specific spells that can do very specific things?
Specific spells for me. Yeah.
I'm showing several different forms of magic in my universe. Like, there's a lot of different types of magic. They right now are doing kind of elemental / kind of weathery magic right now, but I'm trying to move that into them doing spells and just trying to find the spells and stuff for the spells to do. So working on that right now.
Cool.
I'm trying to figure out how to start writing a. Basically, it's like a school hosted, almost like a gladiator event kind of vibe.
Nice.
So you have one of our main characters plus a student from each of the other towers, all like in an arena firing spells at each other. So this is going to be chaos.
Oh, well, that should be fun.
Is it going to be like something where something goes wrong and somebody accidentally gets hurt, or is it really well taken care of by the faculty, and so everybody's going to be protected, but like it's actually going to.
Is Seraphina in the midst of this battle? Is the other question to ask here.
We are not going to be at Seraphina's trial yet. Seraphina's doing the last trial of the bunch. This is the second one. This is Bethrus's. Because they were like, he's the best duelist. We should make him do this.
Nice.
Nice.
So, yeah.
We have someone in the comments, so glad you could join us. How's your writing going? Said, so someone tries to firebomb the MC's apartment, which leads her to move back into the guest room of her old house that her ex-wife still owns, which forces proximity and conversations. Intriguing.
Oh, dear.
100 words. Nice.
Nice.
Very cool.
I have a modern era magical resurgence story I want to write after my current queer is clear. Nice.
Very cool.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a piece for her. Maya, who just commented, she requested that I do a queer romance short story, and so I didn't think I was going to be inspired because I've never written romance before, but I totally was, and now I've got a romance short story coming together, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Nice.
Oh, that's exciting.
I guess technically it's more of like a sapphic romantasy, because it takes place in like a dystopian end of the world type of thing, like all my nonsense kind of does, and it's less about like them like kissing and more about like them trying to survive together in this place, and so it's fun. It's been a good write.
Nice.
Plus, I love the relationships you write in your book. I'm like on the Mantis Gland series with the what is it? Is it the Mystic and his husband?
Yes, yeah, the Mystic, yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people when I sell those books that those two are basically me in real life. They're always like, "Oh no, you girls go have an adventure, and we'll stay home and cook dinner," which is totally me. That's totally me.
Well, yeah, I love Mystic and his husband. I love one scene when Dozy, I think it was, made a comment about hating how some words are like changed for women.
Yeah.
And they were so on board with that. You're like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And it was so thought provoking because I don't think I've ever
Oh
really
my
thought about it that heavily, but
I
it's kind of bogus.
so,
It's kind
oh
of
my
true.
God. I so appreciated the way you wrote that too. It
Oh,
was just
good.
it was so well done.
And I love how the Mystic was so on board with it. He was like, "You're right. This is totally bogus. I will never use that again." And it's like he's such. I just love like all your characters. The Mystic is just amazing.
I like writing people who are accepting, even if the world they're in is terrible. There's a lot of love and a lot of like compassion.
That's adorable.
Honestly, that's the same thing with a lot of my stories. I mean, a lot of my stories do have queer characters and stuff, even if it's not about the queer characters. Like, it's so much more stuff going on. And there's so much stuff they're worrying about, whether it's the end of the world, the end of their realm, characters dying. But the one thing no one has to worry about is, like,
Who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I love that. Any queer normative storyline always brings me such joy. Yep.
Yes. And I loved your newest story too, Clown Worm. That was really interesting. And I loved it because I feel like a lot of times when you see clowns in horror, it's always clowns being the killers. And I love, it's kind of like the whole thing with the Mantis Gland series, how you made it so drag queens were helping them instead of being villainized as they often are. And the same thing, like clowns aren't actually that bad. I mean, yeah, maybe there's been a killer clown once or twice in real life, but like most clowns are just kind of goofy and fun. And
Yes.
I really love that you had the clowns be the one to save the day at the end.
Yes.
I love queer normative stories too, because like there's so much other stuff going on. Like the one thing we shouldn't have to worry about is who we love,
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Always. The only person whose opinion should matter is the person you're trying to date.
Trying to being the operative word.
Look, I'm writing teenagers. Trying is the best a lot of them can do, okay?
Yeah, speaking of which, is it Russell that always seems to have trouble in that area?
I mean, he seems to be doing better, but now somebody else seems to be having relationship problems.
Oh, goodness.
Serafina
There's
is
always
like,
somebody.
I'm too stressed to even ask about what's going on. So it's just like,
You guys can deal with your own emotional turmoil. I have enough on my plate.
she's like, I am not equipped to help with this particular kind of problem.
Well, it's not just teenagers that have issues. Like Kalista is 1,000 years old and she's back in romance drama for the first time for like 700 years. So
Yeah.
it's been 700 years since she dated, and now she's having like relationship trouble over it. So
I think a few
That's what
things
happens
might
when you're
have
out of
changed in the
practice.
period of 700 years when it comes to the dating scene.
I'm glad you don't make it like I wanted to jump in. I'm glad you don't make it like a weird age gap thing though. She seems like she's in her 20s or 30s or something like that. She doesn't seem like she's 1,000 years old. She doesn't seem
Yeah.
what would the word be? Elevated, more like above everybody else because she's older and has more wisdom and stuff. She feels like everybody else in the group, and she's trying to fit in and trying to survive. And
yeah. And I knew when I made this whole Calista Roxanne relationship, because there is an age gap, because werewolves are immortal, but she's also hasn't been around as long as a lot of the other monsters in the story. I still didn't want, because I know a lot of these like vampire romances in TV always have the younger person be a teenager, which is a little creepy. And it's like there's so many of them, the Vampire Diaries, Twilight, whatever, and it's like I don't think age gaps are actually that bad as long as one of them is not a minor. as long as you're both like old enough to make your own decisions, like I don't think an age gap should be that much of a problem. You know, you're old enough to make your own decisions, you know? But if you're a teenager, it's a little weird. So Roxanne, I made sure she was in her mid-20s for her to be in a relationship with Kalista, because otherwise I would have been a little creeped out.
Well, yeah, I think that there's I feel like the term age gap has become sort of a broad general term, but I feel like it means something negative. Like if most of us say it, we're not saying it in a positive way. We're not saying like, oh, look at this great age gap relationship. No, you're saying that because there's some little creepy element to it. You know, somebody's being sketchy. Somebody was like weird about it. Like if there's an age gap and there's no weirdness, we don't call it an age gap. You know what I mean? We just oh, look at that great relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know there are still people that will be talking about like celebrity romances. One is like a lot older than the other, and as long as like the other one isn't like a minor or freshly out of being a minor, I don't think it's that bad. Like they're both adults, they're both in their 20s or 30s. So what if they're dating someone 20 years older than them, you know? I don't think it's that bad, but a lot of people still talk about it like it's negative. And it's like,
yeah, Angel and Buffy was kind of weird too, from Maya's comment.
Oh yeah, definitely. They were really weird.
Honestly, all of her boyfriends were kind of iffy. Let's be honest. I don't think there was a single one that's like, yep, this is a healthy relationship.
Yeah, definitely. But I swear all these vampire shows have them with a minor. Like, it's one thing to have like a vampire with a human who's the vampire's hundreds of years old, but at least make them 25 or something, you know?
I think another aspect that I appreciate about the romance between Roxanne and Kalista in your Realm of Monsters series, sort of like with Kalista and Joan in your prequel novella series, is there's a equal level of their like they're both on equal ground in the relationship. They each bring something to the relationship. There's a level of respect. Roxanne comes in with her own experience, like Joan did, and so you. Not just, this idea of an age gap for me is also, I think, the way the relationship, like the two people in the relationship are with each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that mutual level of respect, that the idea that they're both able to sort of hold their own in the midst of the relationship as well as independently.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I've been writing a lot about Kalista and Roxanne lately because it's almost the end of the book. And like I said, there's some relationship drama. So that's always fun.
Well, don't you only have like a handful of chapters left? How much more drama could you actually fit in those chapters?
Well, right. They're about to get together, but they have the battle and stuff first.
Do you already have it worked out how they officially get together?
Yes. Right now, Roxanne has been kidnapped, though, so.
Oh, dear.
And I don't want to spoil too much. I'm sure Ellie will know what I mean, but let's just say the sword from Tartarus and the Sword comes into play.
It's gonna come back? Oh my gosh! Oh no! Oh
the best
no!
part of these streams will always be Ellie's reactions to little tidbits that we drop.
Oh wait! Is it Kalista who has to interact with the sword again?
I don't want to spoil too much.
Oh no! Okay.
So Ellie's not going to be okay when she reads it.
No.
I don't know, that last novella, oh my god, just ripped my heart out. And I'm waiting for a certain pointy item to make a comeback in the Tower of Memories series. And I'm like terrified.
I have to finish this chapter, then the other two trials, then one more, and then Stabby Stabby.
Does Stabby Stabby occur in the midst of one of the trials?
Maybe, or maybe, unrelated.
We're trying not to spoil too much, Ellie.
I like spoilers.
Let's just say with the tones of the chapters, like, you can tell that something bad's about to happen relatively soon in the timeline.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they already tried right before the masquerade started. Luckily, Serafina wasn't alone, so they ran away, but still.
Oh man. The way you write tension, just, it's like you're constantly on the edge of your seat, even when there's like the happy, happy, joy, joy moments that's still like sort of percolating in the back of your mind.
Yeah, like one minute you're reading about Celica heckling Jarek for not doing too well in his trial. The next you're like, anybody being alone right now is probably dangerous.
Yeah, right now I'm writing the battle with Ayana, but I'm very excited for the battle with Thana.
Oh my god, Thana. Ugh.
Because Rain and Thana are probably the most two powerful beings in the world, and they're about to go at it. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay, Rain has like the coolest magic ever. There's a part in, I think it's book 2, where you first meet Rain, and they use this like storytelling magic that's like swirls of different colored smoke and everything, and it's just like you could just picture how amazing it is.
I'm glad you like it.
Awesome.
I've loved writing Rain's character and their magic because they are definitely one of the most powerful beings I've ever created, and you get really into Rain's powers in this one and just how dangerous they can really be. So that's been exciting to write.
It's always fun to see a character who we've been told, oh, this is the most powerful character in the story, and then they finally get to like do something, and you're like, oh yeah, you guys weren't kidding.
So there's always this whole thing about like showing versus telling, right? And this idea that if you're going to state something, you need to show it. But I think it's kind of cool, like what you're saying, when you have that element of utilizing telling to build expectation, and then you finally get shown it, and it just like exceeds expectation, and it's so cool.
Well, I mean, telling and showing, you can kind of do both at the same time if you do it correctly, because like when you show a reaction, that reaction can tell a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Like if everybody who knows this character is terrified of them, like, and then we finally see why, and you're just like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense.
Right. I have in what I'm currently writing right now, when morning comes, you have these characters that have sort of just been talked about for like 3 books or so, finally coming to the screen, the page, and you have these characters who are like, oh my god, you're actually as amazing as everybody said you were. I thought that you were like this fairy tale for them. And it's so cool to finally be able to be like, no, these characters were right. These people are awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited for that book. I'm so excited to see these characters that have been in different books finally team up together at the same time. Like, I'm so excited to see, especially the whole Ari, Sarah, and Elspie. Like, I'm so excited for that.
Oh my god, you're gonna love it. Oh my god, I have so many things, and I'm almost done part 1 of When Morning Comes, but it's it's in part 2 that you finally get this like epic team up where they I don't want to spoil too much. Basically, Elspie starts running a poisoner's apothecary, and Ari helps.
Yes. That's
and
awesome.
It's so great.
I am so excited because I love Ari in book 1. I love Sarah and Elspie in book 2, and to see them together, especially because I feel like Ari and Elspie, you already told me a little bit, but it's like Ari and Elspie can be a little too similar, so they're heads butts, and they don't like each other because of that. And I'm so excited to see their like duo because they will be a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, and all the characters who know Ari and know Elspie are greatly amused by them butting heads because they're just like, you two are just, you realize this is all because you're so similar, right? And they're like, no, shut up. It's great.
I'm so excited for that.
Characters who play with poison are always fun.
Oh, yeah. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun also to draw inspiration from real life and like all the past poisoner apothecaries, or I don't remember the um, woman's name, but there's this historical figure that like ran this poisoner's apothecary that for like women who would like poison their husbands and everything. And it's just been so much fun to like rabbit hole into that kind of research.
This is what happens when you don't let people get divorced when they want to.
Exactly.
For real.
Ellie, are you using like real plants from our world that have poisonous effects, or have you made up your own mostly for the apothecaries?
So it's kind of that's a good question. I would like to utilize real plants and stuff like that, and basically the way I've been dealing with most of the herbs is to describe them in various ways without technically naming them.
Nice.
Which
Yes.
is
Yes.
to
Good.
mostly make sure that I'm not utilizing wrong information.
That's,
wrong
I think, very smart. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Part of it is
got a,
like, oh, you don't want to be proven wrong, but also you maybe don't want to give like a detailed how to poison and kill people.
Right.
In your books.
Right. I mean, that's also a very fair thing, and that's entirely part of what was going into my thought process.
I
Absolutely.
own a poisonous plants book that tells you how to make everything out of it. It tells you
That is
not
so
to.
awesome.
It tells you not to, but it tells you how to.
There is a place, I think, in like, I forget if it's England or Scotland, that's a poisoner's garden, and you can like go and see this entire garden. And I'm pretty sure there was like a joke about a gift shop, so I don't know if there's an actual gift shop or not, but that
I feel like if it's in England, there is one.
The author of the book has one of these full poisonous plant gardens, so it may be related to exactly that.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, that is so cool.
I'll when we take our another sprint, I'll try and run and find the book in my bookcase real quick. But yeah.
Yay! Thank you.
Don't be a reference to someone's murder. Yeah.
I mean, part of what's so awesome and for writing about this poisoner's apothecary with Ellsby and Ari is who they choose to target, because a lot of it has to do with domestic violence and going after individuals who get away with hurting other people like that. So
I love just desserts. I love that. Yep.
Yeah. Love
I
a good
know.
revenge.
I know in my novellas, Kalista kind of makes a couple lines about wanting to find men who wrong women and gut them slowly.
Yes, I've appreciated that line so many times. It brings me much joy.
I loved your newest story, Ellie, too.
Thank you.
Water's Edge. It was so good, and there were so many real life things that because when I was reading it, my mom was talking with her friend who was over, and I ended up reading several lines that was said to them, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so accurate. This is so real," and it's always it was just so good. So many of the lines like was just so something that like I'm sure every woman kind of understands.
Oh, thank you. That means so much.
You're gonna make Ellie cry on camera.
But it was just so good. There were so many lines that I really appreciated that I definitely feel like every woman just understands because of the hell we have to go through on a daily. And not just women too. Like there was that line about like how some, other races, their crimes aren't solved as often as, white people and stuff, and little throwaway lines like that show. And I love how you also really delve deep into statistics to prove the point that you're making, because it's actually true. But there are still men today that will say, oh, that's not true. That's all fake, whatever. But these are literal statistics that prove otherwise.
Absolutely. And the statistics are staggering. And I wish my brain worked better than it did. There's a specific term for the idea that when a white person goes missing or is murdered, that you have all this media attention that would happen compared to somebody who is not white. And the same is for people who are cis and straight and stuff like that, where you have this disproportionate reporting that occurs, as well as trying to galvanize the community to help type of deal. and that was poorly worded, and there's much. I write better than I word, but
I'm pretty sure everybody does.
I write better than I word. That is the best line I've ever heard before.
I feel that. It's like you could say it all on paper or on your laptop or whatever, but when you try to express it in words, it doesn't come out right.
yeah, the pen is definitely mightier than the speech.
Yeah, we all have that happen to us. But yeah, I really appreciate a lot that was said and stuff because it's stuff, and I loved the main character because she was like fighting so hard for these dead girls that nobody cared about how they died, and was so hard trying to give them a voice and like find out what happened to them, and because they didn't really have a voice, and now she's giving them a voice to figure out what happened to them and let the world know that, hey, these girls were brutally murdered by this man and it was covered up.
Yeah.
And the fact that this actually happens still today in real life, like the amount of times that I find out about this awful crime and then but it's not being talked about, but this other crime that's happening to a white male is being thrown everywhere. And it's like, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Like that CEO that was murdered. Do you see a poor black person going having their and the fact that they're trying to give the death penalty for this man that killed one person rather than like all these people that have raped and killed and slaughtered, like that's actually kind of messed up.
It was very important for me when writing this to talk about these issues that occur and to bring up other aspects of these conversations rather than just this one point about these white girls who are missing. I mean, we just had, I think it's called Red Dress Day to talk about, bring awareness for the murdered and missing Indigenous women that occurred. And I think that was like May 5th or somewhere around there. And just this idea of how much this stuff is going on and the importance of whose story gets told and why and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, it was a very powerful novella.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hello. So glad you could join us. I present as both genders and femme presentation is not passable. I see the difference in treatment very clearly. Yeah. My opposition to the death penalty is largely based on the racial disparity in its use.
Yes. 100%.
I'm not a big fan of the death penalty either because my fundamental issue with it is that the system is too flawed to be trusted to make that choice.
Yes.
Is probably the best way I can phrase it.
Well phrased.
And I don't like that it comes out of taxpayers' money, so it's literally us paying for it. We're fucking paying for people getting murdered by the state. Like that to me. Yeah,
Like, how
I hate
could
that.
that
There's a
possibly be
grossness.
I hate that. Yep.
There's a grossness.
right?
Yeah.
100%.
Well, this live has turned very dark.
Let's take a turn.
I mean, in all fairness, there's various dark aspects to everything we tend to write. All
Mhm.
four of us.
True. Because currently the monsters are uprising to try to take back their world, their government, because of the dictator that has taken over, which I feel is very real to what's happening right now.
Yeah.
You guys want to do another sprint?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Sprinting until 30 after?
Sounds
Sure.
good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect.
Awesome. Meet you
See you
back.
on the other side.
There we go. Yeah.
Is that the Poisons?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's called. Where's the music coming from? That's awesome.
Sorry, that's me.
Wicked Plants, the weed that killed Lincoln's mother and other botanical atrocities by Amy Stewart. And then it's got some art in there also. Yeah. So yeah, this is the book. Wicked Plants.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my writing playlist music. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
How did everybody's sprints go?
Pretty good.
Yep.
Really well.
Good.
Sorry for the delay. I was hastily muting or pausing music.
You're fine. What's everybody currently writing? What kind of scene?
I wrote a fun line that made me laugh when I wrote it. The boy.
Well, now you have to share it.
Yeah, right. The boy she had dated a few years ago had been dumb as a stone. It just made me laugh. I just love it. The boy she dated a few years ago had been dumb as a stone. It made me happy when I wrote it.
Utter perfection.
We all know a boy who's dumb as a stone, don't we?
Anybody else have fun lines that they wrote while sprinting?
I mean, mine's mostly like a lot of action and battle with the witches duel right now, so not much fun lines, just nothing like that, because there hasn't been that much dialogue, but mostly just action, which has been fun to write.
I'm
800 words into this chapter, and now finally the spells can finally start flying. So.
Nice.
That's awesome. I imagine that's quite the explosion of color.
Yeah.
Does
Colors
color play
everywhere.
a big role in your books?
Yes. Colors are a big deal. Always pay
Oh,
attention
cool.
to the colors of everything in Tower of Memories.
yeah.
I use colors for foreshadowing, for plot reveals,
Nice.
And magic.
and magic.
I love how you talk about the different shades of the colors involving magic as well. Especially with the idea that the colors tell you so much, the colors are tied to the towers, but then you also have that like personal element of the different shades.
Well, I mean, yeah. I had a fun line in the last chapter I was working on regarding colors and magic. Let me see if I can find it here. No. Ah, here it is. Don't mind me. Yeah. I'll just read the whole paragraph. Screw it. Jarek hadn't made it all the way to the target. He'd gone through 8 rings completely, but it must have hit the 9th. It was stuck in midair, cords of thin green wire holding it in place. I didn't know that shade of green. It was lighter than Curse green, but darker and bluer than Feathers green. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Nice.
I did have a line several chapters ago. I shared a snippet of it, and I know Ellie commented on liking that line. Callisto is showing Roxanne her dagger collection because she has like hundreds of daggers. That's her weapon. And she was explaining that every dagger tells a story of who she was at the time she used it or what battle she was in. And Roxanne was like, she said, daggers tell a story. And Callista's line was, everything tells a story if you listen hard enough.
I love that line.
It's a good line. Yeah.
Well, Callista's century is old, so yeah, even if she gets a new one like only every couple of years, that still kind of piles up after a time.
Is the Jolista dagger in the collection?
Yes, that is shown. She has. I don't want to like spoil too much, but I don't think this is that big of a spoiler. And she has a whole like treasure chest full of things from her relationship with Joan.
She has a Joan box. Oh,
Including a white rose.
oh, lovely.
Ellie loves Calista and Joan's relationship.
I do. I will go down with that ship.
Yes, they were a lot of fun to write. Like, when I first mentioned that Calista, before the prequels ever happened, and I mentioned in the Realm Monsters that Calista had a thing with Joan of Arc, I never thought it would become this big thing. But It did, and it ended up having 10 novellas showing their entire relationship from them meeting to Joan's death. So, yeah, it became a lot more in depth than I ever thought it was going to be.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing and funny. And oh my God, the last one hurt your heart. That one scene when you talk about the white rose that drops in like the road and everything. Oh, that's
Yeah, when I was writing
Ellie
that
is still recovering.
I will never recover.
you
I
never
will never recover.
Wow. Yeah, when I was writing that scene, I was like, yeah, Ellie's gonna kill me for this scene.
So well written.
Thank you. I'm not writing, I'm reading Johara's book, Kalista's Adventures Vacation.
Nice. Nice.
Yes, that one is so much fun.
This is my mom. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, she's mostly caught up with my books. She just has to read my last 2 novellas. She reads all my books. She's very supportive.
That's awesome.
That's sweet.
Adam and I are both working on short stories for an anthology. We are hoping to release in time for World Pride in June. Nice. That sounds like a lot.
awesome.
That sounds like tremendous fun.
Yeah. I would love if this book, The Queen of Monsters, comes out in June, because there's like so many queer characters, obviously, and that would be awesome.
Do you think it will?
Finishing it, and then I'll send it off. Honestly, because it is so long that it might take a little while for Ellie to get through all of it because she's my beta reader.
Does the anthology have a theme? Like a specific type of theme?
It's just queer romance with happy endings. It's
That's awesome.
yeah. I think the prompt was 10 to 15,000 words. So novelette. I guess that's technically a novelette size, which is cool. Just a happy ending where the queer characters get to be happy together. Ouch. Just smashed my hand. But yeah, so that's what I'm writing. Even though it takes place like all my stuff in a dark world, they still get to be happy together, which I'm cool with.
That's awesome.
Nice. We love queer people getting their happy endings.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm so excited to write Kalista's happy ending because she has been through absolute hell, and if anybody deserves it, it's her.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think you owe her one at this point.
Yes. It'll be very upsetting if she gets a tragic ending. I don't think I could do that to her.
I mean, she kind of already dealt with her tragic ending with Joan, right? So
Yeah. And Marissa, don't forget that. How are you gonna feel with the prequel trilogy and Marissa's death?
I was just gonna ask you, is Marissa's death in the prequel trilogy?
Yes, the prequel trilogy is leading up to the realm's creation, and she dies like just as they created it. Like they're trying to usher everyone into the realm, so she doesn't even get to enjoy the realm she created before she died.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of tragedy. Kalista has been through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, her backstory is so when I decided to make this trilogy, the original trilogy, I did not think it would end up having a prequel trilogy, 10 prequel novellas, but she's been around for 1,000 years. There's a lot I could do with her story.
Yeah. I feel that with the B series, that was only supposed to be like one novel and now has turned into at least 4 novels. There's going to be a fairy tale companion and then a short story companion as well.
Exciting. I love that because that's why I have a hard time writing standalones, even though I'm trying to make my Scooby-Doo retelling a standalone. Still not sure it will be, but I have a hard time writing standalones because I come up with so many ideas that it turns into at least a duology, if not more.
I mean, in all fairness, the worlds that you create, the magic and all that stuff, there's so much that you can play around with it.
Yeah. But I love series. There's just so much to the series, and it's so fun to create.
Yeah. For me, it's either going to be like a 5,000 word short story or a novel series. There's no in between.
And you are phenomenal at both.
I try.
I mean, the Towers of Memory is going to be a very long series, isn't it?
What is it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Year one?
I don't want to talk about it.
I mean, your readers are very happy that there's so much.
Yeah.
I know you are. I know you are.
I realize it doesn't quite out the whole writing aspect of it, but yeah.
Well, part of it is that the books are like on the shorter end. Like if you put them all together, I run the numbers, and once I'm done with this one, the whole first year is going to be roughly like 400,000 words. So it's not as bad, but still.
Separated into how many books?
That's into 6 books.
6 books. Yeah, that's awesome. 400,000
Yeah.
in 6 books. That's pretty.
And
excellent.
that's just the first school year, and there's 5 school years. So
Awesome. You got a ways to go, but you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
And,
yeah.
and then there's Lucinda's story, right? Like everything that happened before.
I am not doing a prequel.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure I might end up writing enough Lucinda intermissions to fill a novella, but I'm not doing one. That's not happening.
I can't help it. Sometimes I just have to write the prequel or sequel because ideas come to me. I know I have to, after I finish the Queen of Monsters, I am taking a break from my existing series because I want to work on my Scooby-Doo retelling as well as my Skeleton series that I've been anticipating for years, which is going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be queer characters, but there's going to be like no romance. It's just going to mostly be friendships because that's kind of my thing. But I'm very excited for it because I love skeletons, and you do not see skeletons nearly enough. But I kind of love skeletons. So I'm very excited for this series that revolves around skeletons and the Grim Reaper. So that's going to be fun.
Cool.
But at some point, I do have books for my existing series I do want to finish. I have one more book for my Jasmine Perez series, which is going to be about Jasmine's daughter. So that's fun. Then The Curse's Light, I have a duology sequel series where the side character Andrea becomes the main character. And then for The Realm of Monsters, I still have the prequel trilogy that has to do with Kalista, Rain, and Marissa to write. So there's so much I have planned. I just can't help it.
That is awesome.
Do any of you have events coming up where you're going to be selling your books this summer?
I wish.
Same. I do not. I still haven't actually done an event. I'm trying to figure out how to go about starting one, but I do not know how.
I've gone to a few to sell books, but I don't have any planned soon because I'm currently in the midst of making some changes to how I do some stuff. So,
Johar, I think you'd have a lot of fun. I think when you're ready to try it, I think you'll have a blast. And I always recommend to people who are new to doing vendor events to set up small, to start basic, one table, a nice tablecloth, a pile of your books just sort of spread out, and maybe a few like cheapy decorations from Michael's if you've got a little extra money just to make it eye-catching. But even that's like extra, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've seen people with just a table and their books piled up, and you're so passionate about talking about your books. That's what I think is what sells. All of us, all authors, no matter how much people want to try and write to the masses, we all write to a niche audience. And if you embrace that and just get passionate about your work, the people who are your niche, who are in it, are going to be like, I have to buy your books right this second. It's just going to be awesome. You don't have to feel like a salesperson. You don't have to get all salesy. Just be passionate. And the people that want it will want it. And the people who are like, oh, that's not my thing, will walk away, and it won't be anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are events that run from free tabling where you don't have to pay anything to like $40 for a whole day to like $200 for a whole day. Like there's a lot of options, at least in the area where I am. If you're near a big city, there's going to be something similar to that. But I think you'd have a blast. I really think you should think about doing it sometime.
If
Yes.
you're looking for events, one place you can at least start looking at is craft fairs.
Oh,
Yeah,
You can,
that's where I
Google
started.
your
Craft
area,
fairs,
and
farmers
then you can see,
markets,
yeah.
those kinds of things, definitely.
And those are
100%.
usually
and
the
you can
least
oftentimes
expensive.
Google your area and then put like vendors wanted or craft fairs or stuff like that.
Yep.
Depending on if you're in any community Facebook groups that are like from your community and everything, you can always put out feelers that way as well.
oh, okay. Thank you. I'll definitely look into that.
I definitely think you'll have
Don't
fun.
mind me.
It's a good time. It's a good time, and you always end up meeting other vendors. Even if you're the only author at an event and there's no other book people to talk to, you're going to talk to somebody who does art or who does knitting, or there's so many different people who are going to be there, and they're all creative like you. They're all trying to do the same thing in their own way and just be creative for themselves, and it's so much fun.
And readers get so excited over the prospect of meeting an author.
Right.
It's
Yeah. Oh, and you have to
such a
sign every book.
fervent
You have to sign
experience.
every book for people. Ask
Oh.
them their name, get their name, write their name, write thank you. Like, they freaking love it, and it's so
Oh.
fun. It makes you feel so good.
Get like some Sharpies that are in like fun colors, not just like plain black. Pick like a color or two that you like feel like represent you or your work in some way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have
Also, if you're gonna sign
tons.
books, really helpful tip is to have scrap pieces of paper. Have them spell their name ahead of time before you try to write the inscription, because people have various different spellings of their names, and you
All the
don't want to
spellings.
spell Riley wrong.
So,
So-
always ask their spelling. Yep, definitely.
Always.
And if you write it down on the scrap paper ahead of time, then you can just sort of copy it in while
That's
you're
smart.
because they always love to talk to you too while you're writing inscriptions.
Yes.
So
All right. Thank you for all the tips. I'm excited to look around and try to find an event.
You
That sounds
definitely
like
should. You've got the personality for it. I think you would do
Oh, yeah.
well. You would have fun. Yeah.
Funnily enough, I'm actually going to an event. I leave tomorrow, but like as a reader, not as an author.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Nice.
That's
So
always fun.
that's gonna be fun.
is there a
What's coming up?
specific-
Where are you going?
It's gonna be Enemies and Lovers in Mesa. So
Oh, cool.
it's a couple hour drive for me, but it'll be a fun
Cool.
weekend.
Cool.
Is there a
Cool.
specific author you're looking forward to like interacting with or getting books signed by, or is it just sort of the general theme and vibe?
I mean, it's out of the list of authors that I've seen, there's only one name I recognize, but I always look forward to finding new ones.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah,
Fair.
it'll be something that's just fun for me and mom to do for a weekend.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
Definitely.
I would have tried to get a table if I had found out about it a bit sooner, but life
Is it a
happens.
yearly event?
I don't know, but if they have one next year, I'll probably go.
Nice.
Very cool.
Do you mind me asking how much were the tickets for guests to go?
For a regular person ticket was $40 a person.
Okay, not bad at all. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
For a major event, like yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, there were like other parts to it that were like more expensive. Like there's also going to be like a concert that's happening at the same time. That was like an extra charge that we didn't end up getting, but
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yep.
and in contrast, Johara, most of the events that Ellie and I were talking about, the smaller ones, tend to be either free for guests or like a little nominal, like $5 entry, or even often there'll be like a canned food thing, so it's often free for people to come in. So that's pretty cool too.
Nice.
Versus some of these bigger events, like a Comic-Con is always like $60 to get in or whatever. So yeah, it's a different story.
Another really fun place to check out as an author are pagan prides.
I did
I
several
used
last
to
year. Yep.
attend Pagan Pride here in the LAOT area, which by far has been like the best Pagan Pride in California, in my opinion. But they had an author signing table, which was free to participate with. They had like you could do a workshop, for instance, if you wanted, and then you could also sell through like a booth that had a fee tied to it. But it was particularly fun because with the pagan community, the idea of like the fantasy elements of your story, is the idea of the Greek mythology elements, and then the queer elements of your story as well. I mean, in the Pagan Pride that I attended with LAOC, they were such a welcoming, open community that like hitting all those marks would have just be like amazing for your books.
Yeah, all right, thanks. I'll definitely have to look into it.
Part of me wishes you lived closer, and maybe we could like try to organize going to events together, because I feel like that would be fun.
That would be,
like
yeah.
share a table.
Airing a booth. Always great fun.
It'd be awesome if like all of us lived closer and we could all just go to one of these events together and that would be awesome.
Yeah. There is this LA Festival of Books that always happens every year around where I'm at. And one year I was able to attend as an author, but only because I shared the booth space with 7 other authors, because it was very expensive.
Wow.
But it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
When is that?
LA Festival of Books. When is it? That is a fabulous question. I think it's in April. I went last year to meet my all-time favorite author and get like all of my books signed by her, and then she was part of this panel, and it was just so incredible. Yeah, it tends to be in April. So the next one in 2026 is April 18th to the 19th, it's looking like.
Okay.
Nice.
But it's always fun.
Yeah.
I think I live close enough to LA that I probably could go with a bit of planning,
Really?
but yeah.
Very cool.
I live in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
My brain is trying to like, I suck at geography and math. So I will
If
take
you
your word for it.
Yeah. If you want some like random tidbits about where I live that won't give any details away, I live 15 minutes from London Bridge, which doesn't help anyone, but you know, it's funny.
Lake Havasu. I know where that is.
And there's no tea shops in this town, and it's awful.
Oh no.
I'm like, who okayed this?
Okay, if
What
you
do you
wind
think?
up going to LA, you should definitely check out some of the tea places around here, especially like in Long Beach and stuff like that. They have a lot
The
of really
best
cool
tea I've found so far was at like a Renaissance fair.
Ren fairs, yes. Oh my god, Ren fairs are so much fun.
Yes. I went to 2 this year. They were fun.
Nice.
I applied to 3 Renaissance fairs this summer, and I got rejected to all 3 of them.
Oh,
I wasn't like an author at any of them. I was just a guest walking around.
yeah, that's what I normally do too.
I've always wanted to go to like a Comic-Con or something. Those seem like so much fun.
Oh, they
They're
totally are.
so
Yes.
awesome.
I also got rejected from Rose City Comic Con this year.
Oh, I'm so
But
sorry.
there's just so many people applying to all these bigger events that it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a toss up, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where I'm at, they also have comic expos, which are like smaller Comic Cons.
I did one last month, a small one. Yeah, it was awesome.
Nice.
And any place where people are going to be that like to read books, even if it's not a specifically book event, comic events are always awesome for authors. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they tend to be more expensive unless you can find a smaller one.
Yeah.
They can be very expensive.
Yes. I was
The
I was
amount of
looking
times I
forward to
find
it,
an
but now
event and then it's kind of like looking at a catalog where you just sort of don't look at the prices because the minute you do, your wallet just starts wheezing in agony.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to try to see if there's any events near me. Once I have some more money, because I'll have to I'll need some money for to get there and the booth and copies of my books and stuff. I moved not that long ago, and I'm still looking for a job right now, so it might be a few months before I can do it. But once I have the money, I definitely plan to look around and see if I can find any events.
Right on. Yeah.
When you do get yourself in a situation where you can go, some other advice: bring double the amount of copies for book one of your series.
Yes. Always
compared to
bring
the
more
others.
of book one. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, if you sell bundles, and I think this is something I've seen Adam do, is you can do a little bit off and then sell the entire series. And
Yeah.
people like to gobble that up.
Yeah. I tie them up in with fancy
Discounts
ribbons.
for buying in bulk.
Yes. Buying in bulk, selling in bulk. That's always a good way to do it. Yep. Sell with a little discount. Let them know that you've signed the books already. And yeah, they love it.
I also do little printouts that talk about giving reviews and where you can give a review, how you can word the review,
Ooh,
that kind of stuff too, as just a sort of hey, if you feel so inclined. And I've actually gotten a few reviews from it before, so.
I was
fun.
thinking of doing something similar. I recently had the idea of putting a QR code at the end of each book that linked directly to the Goodreads or the whatever page. I hadn't thought of which one yet,
Bookmarks.
but yeah.
Very
Or
nice.
bookmarks. Yeah, bookmarks are good too. Yep.
Nice. I do know I have some bookmarks I made for my books. For the first two series, I haven't done for the Realm Monsters yet, which I plan to. And I have
Do you have them in reach?
Huh?
Do you have
Oh,
them
I
in
don't
reach?
have them
Can you show
printed
us?
out yet, but I have them
Oh.
on my laptop. I can send them to you guys. I
Cool.
have to fix them a little bit because when I did try to print one out after I got my printer to see how it looks, they were a bit bigger than I anticipated. So I'm going to make them a bit smaller. But yeah, I still like how they look. So I still want it to be the same look. I just need to make them a bit smaller.
Very
Because
cool.
I have bookmarks I made for when I was still doing my Journals of Fire series a while back. So I still have a ton of these lying around.
Nice.
Nice.
I like making scented bookmarks for mine. I do a fabric and do a scent that's tied to the book, and they always
that's
have a little
awesome.
charm and ribbon.
Once I do start printing them out, I also want to laminate them and stuff.
That's a good idea.
Scented. That's wild. That's pretty wild.
I feel like if I did scented, I would probably go with the smell of rain for my bookmarks.
Ooh. very cool.
Readers who know will know, and then I can just laugh about it.
Nice. I don't know if White Roses have a sense, but I would love to do that for some Jolista bookmarks. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Definitely.
I love the smell of Con Candy. I have Con Candy body spray that I love using. It smells so good. You guys want to
That
go on
sounds like
another bit?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. So 30 after again?
Sounds good.
I may need to jump off before that, but thank you for letting me be part of it for a while. But yeah, I'll jump in. I'll write for a little, and when I gotta go, I gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understandable.
This will be my last sprint.
Okay. So
Because I'll
glad you
have
guys
to-
could join us.
Yay!
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
mean, I'll
Zahara.
still have a little bit of time after, but not much.
Okay.
But I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Happy sprinting. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How'd y'all sprints go?
Very
Eh.
good.
Not as well now that I'm actually into the action part.
Oh.
I always find action a little tricky to write at times.
Mm.
Well, it's not even that it's like hard, but there's just a lot to be keeping track of right now that's happening like at the same time.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I'll have to get a few words and then figure out who has what color. But because they're all students right now, and because of how the rules of the schools worked out, none of them have their tower colors.
Right.
So that makes keeping track of who's doing what even harder.
Oh yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah.
Gee. Do you have like a chart you like make and refer to over whose color is what?
I do, but we don't know any of these characters, so I didn't have them like written down in advance. I'm making them up as I go.
Yeah. Which is both fun but also a bit like
Yeah. But I found a good opportunity for some fun foreshadowing, so I'm gonna roll with it.
Nice.
very nice.
Foreshadowing's always fun.
It's very vague foreshadowing. It's one of those things like when you read it the first time, you're like, there's nothing special here. But then once you know a certain twist and then read it again, you're like, wait a minute.
Those are the best foreshadowings.
It's so fun, but it's just like I've basically all but told you that this was gonna happen, but then when it happens, you're still surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did yours go, Ellie?
Really, really well. I'm like in the flow, which is really nice to be in.
Nice. Yeah, I was struggling at first during the sprint because I'm trying to figure out, because right now this isn't I feel like the battle scenes that I'm really good at that I love writing are the like real action fist fights, sword fights sort of stuff. And as much as I love magic, coming up with different types of magic to use in a magic kind of fights is a lot harder than I anticipated. So I'm trying to find different types of magic for them to use. And that was a little hard. I think I'm in a little bit of a flow right now. Eric is unconscious. Jeremy has been flown out a window.
Oh my god!
Ayana's about to attack Henry and Isabella just as Kalista's about to make her entrance into the fight. And I have a plan for her entrance that I'm very excited for because it's very like she's gonna really make an entrance.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Feathers is currently hiding behind a rock, but the first student got eliminated from getting caught in like a tar trap, but it was in like a pink color, so it kind of looks like bubblegum to Seraphina.
Interesting.
And then they got hit by some other spell from somebody else. Seraphina doesn't know. It's so hard to write this scene because we don't have names for like 8 of these characters who are in the fight. We only know Featheris's, so she's just referring to them by tower.
That works. That's a good method.
So.
When there's plenty of times where I have characters who don't know the other character's name, so they'll call them things like Freckle Faced or something like that.
That reminds me of the opening chapters of book 1 when when it took so long for Seraphina to get both Russell and Jarek's names. So she just called them Salamander and Ponytail for like the longest time.
It is so relatable, though, as somebody who sucks with names.
Well, they didn't get a chance to introduce themselves properly before the whole Red incident happened.
Yeah, there was a bit going on at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying, I feel like there's a lot going on here because there's the battle with Ayana, and then which is this chapter. Next chapter is going to be the battle with Thana and Rain, and then like monsters are also uprising outside, so the guards can't even help Ayana. They're trying to settle down the monsters because they don't want their realm destroyed. So they were able to get the monsters on their side, which because a lot of Ayana's plans dealt with the monsters being on her side because she figured everyone would feel the same way about her about the realm situation. So, but turns out that they love this realm and they're home, so they're not on her side. So,
Oh wow. I'm currently writing a wedding scene between Fra and Sarah, which is a lot of fun because I get to delve into some like traditions of the kingdom and everything. And I also get to do like a callback from an Impossible Dream when they first got to dance together. And then there's also like this character that seemingly in the description I'm hoping initially seems like, oh, okay, yeah, she's just describing a detail of the wedding ceremony, and then you find out later on that she's like this really important character. So I'm having fun.
Aw.
I'm not sure there's as
Weddings
much
are
going on
cute,
as
though.
the two of you. What's that?
Weddings are cute.
Yes, I'm having fun. And
I'm
Franz
so
there get
excited.
that moment, so that's good.
I'm so excited because I love Sarah and Fra. And the fact that they're finally gonna be able to be together because of everything that happened in an Impossible Dream.
Oh yeah.
I'm so excited. I love their relationship.
Thank you. I have a lot of fun writing their relationship. I have a soft spot for cinnamon roll love interests that are like endearingly awkward, and that's just so Fra in every sense.
Yes, 100%. I definitely have a soft spot for them too.
Endearingly awkward is definitely a good way to describe a character I'm going to be introducing soon-ish in the timeline. I mean,
Is
not in
this-
this book.
Is
But-
this student number 5 of the five? Student number 6? The still to come dragon student.
Yes, that's going to be the big thing that's happening in book 7 once I'm finished with this school year is new dragon student.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Me too. I also feel like that can explain both Roxanne and Henry a little bit.
I could see that. I'm really excited for Roxanne's story arc in book 3. You know, the snippets you've been teasing out and everything have been very interesting and intriguing, and I'm so excited for it.
Yes, I love writing her arc in this one because I feel like she had minimal like scenes and stuff she could do in the first 2 because so much was going on, but this one really delves deep into her character now that she's finally figuring out who she is, not just her sexuality, but the fact that she can finally live in the place she's always wanted to. She doesn't have to hide because she used to live in the mortal realm, so she doesn't have to hide being a werewolf anymore. She can just run down the streets in her werewolf form, and she's finally figuring out who she is, and she finally feels like she's where she's supposed to be.
That's awesome.
She's
That's
also
always a
getting a
fun
lot of
character.
confidence. I'm sorry, what?
I said that's always a fun character arc.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. And she goes off on Kalista a couple of times, so that's fun. Not many people's brave enough to go to yell at Kalista.
I feel like this is part of why she's so good for her, because she can stand up to Kalista, and Kalista needs that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I definitely.
That's the best sign of a good romantic partner is when they're willing and capable of calling you out on your nonsense.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's definitely what Kalista needs in her best friend as well as her love interest. Like in the novellas, you see that with both Marissa and Joan.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know, Joan was her love interest, Marissa was her best friend, and the two of them were never really afraid of Kalista like most people are because she's kind of terrifying to everybody. And then in book 3 is kind of a similar thing with both Rain and Roxanne, her love interest and best friend, both not being afraid of her, whereas everyone else except for maybe Isabel and Henry kind of are.
I always love that dichotomy of like you have this character who everybody's terrified of, except like the 1 or 2 people who just are not,
Yeah.
who don't care, and you get the sense of like they're like that because they know this person would never hurt them,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's just a fun thing to just like have 2 scenes next to each other where you have this one person who's like too scared to even like look at them in the face, and then this
Yeah.
other person who just does not care.
Oh,
Not
my
even a bit.
I kind of feel like in a way there is that element of the relationship with like Hayworth and her girls in the V series, where like all the servants who Hayworth is in charge of for the vast majority of them are like, oh no, she's terrifying, and then you've got like Elsbeth who's like, she's marshmallow, and you've got like Maybelle who's unafraid to tell her off about stuff.
Yeah, I do love that. I feel like, because I'd like at the beginning, like when in Impossible Dream at the beginning when Sarah shows up and stuff, like so many of them are afraid of her, or at least a little maybe not sure about her yet because she seems so cold at times when you first meet her. But then there was Elsbeth, who's been there, I think the longest it was mentioned out of all of them. And she knows her better than anybody, and she's just so unafraid to call her out, or even Clary sometimes, and I love it because she.
Especially with Elsbeth, I mean, Elsbeth's sort of Hayworth's favorite, and everybody kind of knows it.
Yes, I love their relationship so much. I loved in Where the Heart Where the Heart Is, when when you see Elsbeth first coming to the palace, and it's really awesome to see like her first show up, her get close to Clary and Hayworth, because I've loved her relationship with both of them. But since An Impossible Dream was in Sarah's point of view, you only got so much of it. But in Where the Heart Is, you were able to get into it a little bit more, and I'm sure When the Morning Comes, you get into it even more.
You get a little bit of it there, and then there's going to be a short story all about Elsbeth as well.
I love it.
We're going to get lots of little Elsbeth and everything, who is so much fun because she is, as a child, so much more unfiltered.
I noticed that.
As children are.
Yeah, in the best ways. It's going to be great.
Yes, I'm so excited for that. I love Elsbeth. She was definitely one of my favorite characters, and I loved reading about her, and I can't wait to read more about her.
It means so much. I'm so glad you love her. Do any of you have a favorite line of what you wrote this time around?
Sure. Is this the right one? Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I have mine if you guys are still looking for yours.
Yeah, you can say yours.
Then Fethris's eyes met mine, despite the distance. I couldn't read his expression as clearly as I wanted to, but I could see something there in his posture, too. I wanted to call it determination, but something about it made me think he was making some kind of silent promise. I didn't need a knight's oath or something. I needed him to not get hurt.
Nice.
Ooh, I like it. I love Seraphina's voice.
I do too. Her little asides are some of my best parts.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Did you find a scene you wanted to share, Ellie?
I thought I did, and then I couldn't read my own writing. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but I'm pretty sure I can read this portion of it. Behind the familiar was an old woman wearing her purse in the subtlety of elegance and color, rather than the typical mountain of fabric and garish jewels against ashy muteness. Someone comfortable enough in her finances and station that she hadn't the need to turn herself into a loud boast. Within the growing light, the opaque dark melting to shadows, her every step sparkled, rivaling the chandelier above.
Nice. So I don't really have a line per se, because like I said, I'm writing mostly action at the moment, but there is a section I can share that I really liked. So a couple of the words I can't pronounce because some of the words are in Latin.
Oh boy.
Some spells are in Latin, like one word of spells here and there are just in Latin, so probably can't pronounce them. But Vespertilions, Aeana brought up her poofy dress as bats began flying toward them, screeching. I just caught a mistake. Jeremy screamed, "Offer it," as the bats turned and flew out of a high open window. Aeana held out her hand up to the ceiling as the lights all exploded, glass falling to the ground. Isabella pushed Henry to the ground, shielding him with her body. Jeremy yelled "Valor" as the glass froze and flew towards Aeana. She simply snapped her fingers as they vanished. Poultry. A dozen knives surrounded Aeana, and when she flicked her wrist, they all flew towards the commies. Jeremy yelled "Lapis" as a bunch of boulders lifted from the ground, blocking Isabella and Henry as the blade stuck into stone. "You're getting on my nerves, Jeremy." Aeana raised her arm, levitating him, and then pushed her arm outward as he flew out a window, causing Isabella to scream in distress, tears filling her eyes, but she never left her brother's side.
Oh, very exciting.
And she's kind of torn because it's like that's her boyfriend, but then she can't leave her brother here defenseless. So it's like, what does she do?
Yeah,
I
all
like
the
that.
options are bad.
I like the way you utilize the dialogue and split it up between like what the spell is and what the spell does to really create that element of what's going on and the like tension of the moment.
Thank you. That was the last thing I wrote. So after that, Aeana's going to go after Isabella and Henry again now that Jeremy's out of the way to stop her. But then that's when Callista makes her entrance. And you don't mess with the commies or Callista will be your worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Aeona's gonna really, really get it at that point, I imagine.
But I've been having fun writing this magical duel. And then it's going to be fun to write Callista because Callista doesn't have powers. So her and Aeana's fight's going to be more physical, which is a little bit more of my strength. And then after this chapter, I'm getting to write Athena's duel, which I've been anticipating for like this entire book.
Oh, nice.
I'm so excited for their fight. It's going to be epic and a little destructive.
As it should be.
Yes.
What's a good fight without at least a little bit of destruction?
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. But we talked about Roxanne's storyline this book. I also love Callista's because she has a lot of healing she has to do and
Nice.
trauma. And I love her growth because she's finally at a place where she feels like she deserves to be happy and stuff. And she's finally at a place where she realizes like everything that happened with like Caleb and Thana, like none of it's her fault. Like she was the victim because a lot of times, victim blaming and stuff. And so she is finally at like a good place in her life right now. So she's actually finally letting herself be happy and letting all of the past go, which she's like, there's this, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's this decision she had to make just the other chapter ago. And it really shows her growth because I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say it just really showed her growth with the decision which she ended up making.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
It can be hard sometimes to try to explain something, but not want to get too spoilery. So it's like, how much of this can I explain?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Ellie probably wants us to get a little spoilery.
I do not mind spoilers. I love spoilers. Spoilers are my friend.
That sounds like my mom.
Next chapter I have to write is going to be fun because it's going to be Celica's turn. And that's going to be a very emotionally complicated situation for her.
Is
Those
she
are-
facing one of her brothers?
Both of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, poor Celica.
Honestly, I think she needs this because I feel like she and her brothers have been having like some kind of like underlying tension for a while.
Oh yeah, you feel that when you're reading the book.
Like there's been that's a situation that's been brewing. So I think this will be good for them in the long term, even if it's going to be a little bit awkward for a couple of days.
One of the things I love about the way you write the Tower of Memory series is the way each character is going through their own thing, but how you sprinkle that in to really talk about like their own emotional turmoil. It's so incredibly well done, and it feels like instead of being like hit with boulders, you're really good at the like peeling layers back type of deal.
Well, I think part of it that helps is that Seraphina is highly observant. She's always taking mental notes about how people are doing, at least the people around her. So there's that element to it. So every time she notices that stuff, that kind of reinforces that character trait, but also tells you a little bit like they do stuff when Seraphina's not in the room. We won't always know what that stuff is, but they do stuff.
But you also kind of like hint at it, right? With like whatever's going on in Russell's love life, or was Russell also the one who got them? Oh no, wait, never mind. Anyway.
Well, I'll say this. One of my favorite scenes about that kind of lead into that idea does involve Russell, but is in book 3. And it's kind of one of my favorite jokes in book 3. You know, when Seraphina comes back and tells him, like, you know how the parent weekend was supposed to be tomorrow? You guys have an hour. And then Russell swears and then runs upstairs. The implication being he has something in his room he needs to go hide real quick. We don't know what it is, but it's something.
Or like what's been going on with Jarek in terms of like trying to, I always feel like when I'm reading the Tower of Memory series that Jarek is a character who's kind of trying to forge his own identity outside of the shadow of his family and his family name and the expectation that comes with that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's just the way you do it is such a perfect little like play on the subconscious sometimes rather than it being right there in your face, which is not an easy thing to do at all.
No, but I mean it's yielding the results I need it to.
Oh, absolutely.
I like having this sense of like there's always something we don't know. There's always something someone's not telling us.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I started the series when I did in the timeline. Because there is definitely an alternate universe where I started Tower of Memories, like at the expulsion, for example. And then we just had like 20,000 words of like between her human school life and now school life. But because we started at the entrance exam, we know about as much about Seraphina when we start as the dragons do, which kind of puts us into their shoes a bit. So as Seraphina becomes more comfortable with them, she starts to like become more comfortable with some of that stuff. We start to learn like they do.
But can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that you have a book that's written in first-person perspective that literally puts you in the shoes of Seraphina while simultaneously putting you in the shoes of her friend. Like that is like mind-blowingly brilliant.
Well, I mean, it's all about controlling how much information they have. And it works also because it makes sense why Seraphina doesn't want to even think about certain things that happened.
Absolutely. It's just, I think it's incredibly impressive and speaks to your talent as an author and your ability to accomplish such a feat.
You say that, but honestly, it's more of a keeping track of what readers know and layering information off of each other. Because sometimes I'll tell you the answer point blank, but because it's right next to something that like looks more important, you're like, oh yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Because like I feel like especially after reading this book, you'll be able to tell a lot of like little details about the next dragon because I foreshadowed them a lot in book 6. So
I mean, you've given us little tiny tidbits through like Red and everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, Red is a foreshadowing machine, but not always to the details you think she's telling you about.
Yeah.
You know, when she mentions her favorite song, I'm putting that in quotes for a reason. You know, you think she's telling you one thing, but she could be actually telling you another.
Yeah.
You know, it's as much, by the way, Jarek's your cousin foreshadowing as it is what year she's from.
That's true.
Because if there's any character in this story I would describe as a master of puppets.
That's a very fitting title.
Yeah.
I know in writing the B series, especially when it comes to writing things like in An Impossible Dream and then in this for various reasons, I feel the need sometimes to be like, all the stuff, all the horrible stuff that has been happening is not the exception to the rule. It is the rule in this world. So, like, I think sometimes, like, An Impossible Dream, you have Sayre's perspective and the, like, core four of her and her friends. And so sometimes I need to, like, throw in things to be like, yeah, stuff has been happening to these other girls, too, that are also there. Or, like, in setting up for some of the stuff that's going to come up in part 2 of When Morning Comes, especially when it comes to the reason behind the Poisoner's Apothecary. I have this one scene where Ari is talking to Rowan about his experience being a healer and some of the stuff he has seen in dealing with what he believes to be situations of domestic violence. And it's important to establish the idea that there's an ongoing issue in the kingdom as a whole, rather than just with these main characters, to kind of offer a bigger picture type of deal.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Because I feel like, especially when you have a lot of characters, there's always a lot of stuff going on. And there's always like these side storylines that intersect to the main storyline. And it's like trying to keep track of all of them. And it's like so much can be going on. And it's like, it can be a lot sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I know in book 3, there's like so much going on, you know, because they're all trying to defeat Ayanna and Thana now that Caleb's dead, but at the same time they can't just because what she did at the end of book 2, if Ellie remembers, kind of puts a wreck in their plans and stopping her, because now the entire realm knows that she's the queen, that she's there, and if they try to go after her, it'll look like treason, and she will have reason to kill them and behead them because they did treason by trying to kill the queen. So now they have to be sneaky about it, try to uncover her plans and stop her without, you know, losing all their heads. So while this is happening, like there's a lot of characters, and every character has their own storylines happening that is leading all to the main storyline, the main fight to stopping Ayanna and saving the realm.
Yeah, with When Morning Comes, because it's all these other characters from the first 3 books coming together, there's no like one main character. It's this huge ensemble cast, and you've got like these characters who are doing things over here and these characters who are doing things over here. And one of the things I'm finding particularly challenging is trying to like balance all of that.
Yeah. It can be hard sometimes to balance all that, because I feel like in my series, like I keep adding more characters that you meet that are important to the mission. You know, Rain got introduced, Josiah was introduced. Then there's a new character in book 3 who's kind of a minor character, Christopher, who's introduced. So it's like there's so many characters, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's like I try to give all these characters their, you know, deaths in a story, but there's only so much I can do.
Right.
Yeah, there's sometimes I feel like I'm juggling like 3 different ensemble casts like at the same time, and I'm just like, why have I done this to myself? But you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes I worry, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I think you do an amazing job with it.
Well, I mean, it helps giving every group of characters like their own plot / subplots, so it's easier to balance out.
Yeah.
Although it always gets complicated when the 2 subplots collide.
Yeah, definitely.
And then in part 2 of When Morning Comes, because everybody's sort of been all together at the castle for part 1, because they're all waiting for the wedding and coronation to happen, and for various reasons have been putting it off. What winds up happening in part 2 is characters start like going sort of their separate ways while still being part of the story. So in one sense, I feel like it's going to be easier to balance it, but in another sense, I think it's going to also be a bit more challenging,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does.
So Ellie, I know you mentioned that there's gonna be like characters from all the books, like because of the whole Ari and Elspeth thing. People know Ari, people know Elspeth. Does that mean Ari's family is gonna be in it?
Yes, it does. I don't want to give away too much.
We're all trying not to give away spoilers today.
You definitely see some of Ari's brothers again. I've been trying to avoid certain drama between, especially Nick and Ari.
Oh yeah,
and
we'll
have
have
been
a lot
able
of
to
drama.
accomplish that so far, but there is at least 1 or 2 conversations they are going to need to have.
Yeah.
When Morning Comes, there's a lot of the book is focused on healing, kind of like what you're talking about the Queen of Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's also going to be elements that don't necessarily get healed, because I think there's sometimes a reality to that as well.
Yeah.
But so you're going to get to see Ari's brothers again. I recently wrote a part where she meets up with Rowan, and they have a really cool, really awesome, they have a great conversation. Cool, not quite the right terminology there. But yeah, they get to meet up again, and then Rowan is going to become even more part of the story at one point, and then Wells winds up with an important job as well.
Nice. I'm so excited for book 4. I'm just so excited. And I love what you were saying about like healing, like there's only so much. And I completely agree. Like Kalista does finally heal some of her wounds, which needs to be healed.
Right.
But there's also, and she's finally accepted that like she's allowed to move on from Joan. She's allowed to be happy even though her loved ones are dead. Like her and Rain have that entire conversation. And it's like, yeah, she's learning that like everything that happened was on Caleb and Thana. None of it was her fault. So she does heal in certain ways, but also it doesn't take away her PTSD. She was tortured for centuries. She has a lot of pain and stuff, and she's still going to have nightmares. She's still going to have her moments where she's just like, she's awake doing whatever and something triggers her, because that just doesn't go away because you feel more healed, because you're letting go, because you're letting yourself be happy. Like there's still so much that she needs to work on even after the book, but like, because the thing is a process. You don't just decide, hey, I'm done with this trauma, I'm going to be healed.
Right.
So there's still a lot she has to work on. She still has nightmares. She's still going to have triggering moments, but she is ready to let herself be happy and at least try to find a way to move on with her life, which is the important part that she needed to do.
Absolutely. And I think it's also this idea that like healing takes different forms, and what could be healing for one person might look different than what is healing for another person.
Yes, 100%.
And sometimes what is the most healing for you in a relationship is stepping away and being like, this just isn't working. Whether it's a romantic one, a friendship, or even familial.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Lucinda definitely knows what, that sometimes, doing what's best for you is not what might be best for other people, and also might be hard and hurts, but
yeah.
Absolutely.
I know Ellie mentioned liking this in my novella. I think it was the one where Joan was being betrothed to someone, and it's like Kalista and Joan like loved each other and they wanted to be together, but at the same time that can only do so much, and it's like they had a healthy communication, and as much as Kalista loved Joan, she couldn't handle this life anymore, this secrecy, but she also understood that Joan wasn't ready to tell like her village, her father, especially with the time period it was in. Like, there's still homophobic people today, but back then it was 10 times worse. And so
100 times, yeah.
Yeah, 100 times worse. So, like, Kalista understood that Joan wasn't ready, but Kalista also couldn't do this anymore. She had to do what was best for her. So, what was best for her was walking away as much as it hurt. But they had, like, a healthy communication about it. So,
I mean, one of the things I really appreciated about the conversation was the level of respect of, hey, I acknowledge this is where you're at. I'm not trying to pressure you into doing something that's wrong for you, but I can't do this for myself. And so for myself, I'm going to step away just as I'm going to respect your decision to do what you need to do. And I think it was that mutual level of respect that was just so healthy and so well done. And really, I think it provides words for people sometimes who otherwise might not have words, who find themselves in a similar situation.
I appreciate that.
I love Jolita so much.
That means so much to me that you love them so much. I know you messaged me the other day, like showing me a white rose from like your neighbor, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think about Jolista when I saw this, because white roses are now associated to Jolista, apparently.
Yes, every time I see a white rose, I immediately think of Jolita. And I love the meaning behind the white rose.
I think this means that if you do ever find yourself with a table or a booth at a place, you have to have some white roses on your table.
Yes. highly say yes to that. You could also throw in some lavender, was it, that's like associated with Marissa?
Yeah. Okay, I'll definitely do that.
Plus, it would make your booth space smell amazing.
True. But it'd be so much that I can make something something in the real world like associate with my characters, where as soon as you see them, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about them. It's like every author's dream.
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting as a reader to be like, this is a thing. It's one of those like wink, wink, you know type of deal.
Yeah.
It's like sort of a secret society. Speaking of things you can have on your author table, are you going to have various origami on your author table, Melissa?
If I could make some, I probably would consider it. I am not nearly as good at it as Jarek is.
What would be cool for both my table and Ellie's, because Ari is a little bit like Kalista in this sense with the daggers.
Yes.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
Honestly, all three of us could probably get away with having knives.
Yeah.
That is very true. Yeah, we apparently all three have very stabby books.
Well, the thing about knives is like, knives are like easy to conceal. So if you want to be sneaky with your stabby, use a knife.
And also, I think like daggers and knives are like such personal weapons because you have to get like up close.
Yeah, you have to like look the person in the eyes when you stab them if you're using a dagger.
Yeah.
Right, it's very personal.
And sometimes when I think about Kalista, I don't know if you've ever seen the show, Alyssa, but Ellie has Shadow and Bone, like the Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone, all of them. And
I've heard of it, and I've seen clips, but I haven't gotten around to actually watching it.
I
The
love
crows are the best part.
I love the crows. And a scene that always makes me think of Kalista, honestly, is the scene with Inej when she first goes to see Helene Tanti. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but then she's like has to take off all of her daggers from her outfit and her hair, like all of them that she has hidden in. That is so Kalista.
That
Oh my-
trope is so fun because, like, there's lots of characters that have scenes like that, and every single one is hilarious.
Okay, so my family and I have been rewatching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in order, and we just got to I
Yes.
think it was the third one where Elizabeth Swann has to like
Yep.
take all the weapons, and they're like all of the weapons, and she's like, okay, and they're like, no, all of the weapons. And at one point, she like pulls out this giant like gun from her back, and the other pirate she's with is like looking like, what the hell did that thing there? Like, what is that? It was great. And I totally want to write a moment of that with like Ari because
Honestly, I kind of want to do a moment like that with Kalista. That would be hilarious.
Do it.
oh yeah.
Even
there was-
there's just like an extra that you put at like the back of the book or something. Just
Yes.
do it.
Oh my gosh, I saw these things on Pinterest that popped up for me, and they're like these metal claw-like things that you can like wear on your fingers and everything. And I guess people actually used to wear them on their fingers or something. And then there's like these fans like you would expect from a lady, but the very bottom portion of it is a knife.
Yep.
It's so cool.
Yeah. I love being able to get inspiration from other people too. Like, I know that Ellie has, every time she sees something of Joan of Arc, she sends it to me. So she sent me something that has to do with, apparently Joan of Arc had this ring she used to wear for like battle and stuff. It like brought her comfort and stuff. And she sent me like a picture of it and someone like explaining what the ring was and what it looked like and stuff. So I ended up incorporating it into my last novella. And because I had no idea about this ring until Ellie sent it to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I should definitely add this in my novella, make it a part of Joan's character. Because like I said, I'm trying to incorporate her into my world, but also make her as authentic to her story as possible. So every time I hear a little more thing about Joan of Arc, I was like, okay, I have to incorporate this into the story.
One of the things that was really cool for me was part of what was tied into the ring was this idea that it was like tied to her mother. And one of the things that was like such a cool coincidence was that your version of Joan has the cross that came from her mother. And so it's just this like really cool, like, oh my God, did she know this? And this was why? Or is it just like tapped in to some other type of knowing?
Yeah, I didn't actually think about the cross necklace. Like, I knew that she wore it, but I kind of forgot that it was supposed to be from her mother. And when I incorporated the ring, I wanted it to mean something. And obviously, she has complicated feelings about her father, but she did love her mother. And so I ended up making it like from her mother, which is why it brings her so much comfort.
Oh, and then I was watching this documentary about like warrior women and everything. And they talked about Joan of Arc, and apparently her father like at one point told her brothers that like if she was to ever go off to war and everything, they should just kill her essentially. But it was like her mother that like came to her defense like after her death and everything to try to get like a reversal of the judgment that was passed and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's just really cool the way that you just sort of knew about this closeness with her mom.
I didn't, honestly. That was all accident. Which is funny because I have done that before where like in my very first series, okay, I named the main character Jasmine and then I named the main villain Lilac without really thinking about it, but they're both planets. And then I decided to name Lilac's sister Rosemary, and no, I did not even put together that they're all actually plants. And then it was brought to my attention. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually genius, especially when you find out the connection that they're all actually related to Jasmine as well. And then so when I was making the prequel and I had to give the brother a name because they had a brother who was dead, I was like, okay, I have this theme going on, so I'm just going to continue with it. So I started searching plant names because I was like, I already have this theme going on. I might as well go with it.
After the third one, you kind of have to commit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But up until the brother's name, it was totally accident, okay? It was accident.
How
So
did you come up with the name Seraphina? Like, did you walk on with it? Did you have to like search baby names and just pick one that stuck, or like?
I was looking through like older sounding names because I always knew this was going to be a name that like was passed down from like it has like those older connections. That's why it's spelled with an F. Is that it's this older version of this name. And it means like fire spirit, if I'm remembering correctly. So I always knew I wanted to have like those connections because I knew about the hearth thing going in. So I was like, that should be like a fun like hint if you know what to look for. You know, that she has this like ancient fire related name. So yeah, of course she's gonna be from the ancient fire coven. Like it's one of those it's like I was saying before, it's one of those details that's like staring you in the face and then you find out, you're like, oh well, now it's obvious. Same thing with her middle name being Holly.
Interesting.
You know, I knew I wanted to give her like a plant-based name, so I picked a tree because holly berries are, you know, red. So I was like, it's a plant that's got, you know, connections to the color red, and then just put a bunch of holly trees around the school and to like imply that connection that's always been there.
Well done. That is awesome. I love how much thought goes into everything you do.
Well, not everything, but generally speaking, the more page time something gets, the more I've thought it through.
Nice.
If it's something that only appears on one page, just assume that I made it up on the spot.
Yeah, I'm more of a throw everything at the page and then just see what you make of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit of both with things like there are times, sometimes I like with names, sometimes I'm just looking up names and finding one I like, but then other times I like the whole plant name that ended up happening, or Kalista. I'm pretty sure it was actually a Greek name because I always knew that she was going to be Greek, so I wanted her to have a Greek name. And then like with her middle name, she has this whole conversation with Joan in my 9th novella about like these Greek constellations, and so there was this whole story her mother used to tell her, which is how she got her middle name from that constellation.
But I love how much you learn about her parents in that, and also to me, it adds to the complicated relationship with her mother as well, to give her this name and then to treat her the way she treated her.
Yeah.
But it tells you so much as a reader.
Yeah. And I think, because I really like that conversation, because I really like how Kalista said that she can understand her mother to a point because she understood that she was from this timeline where she didn't really have a voice. She wasn't allowed to speak up. And a lot of what she did in her own way was trying to protect her daughter from getting abused or downgraded or anything, because if she would just fall in line, she wouldn't be. But so in her own way, she was trying to protect her daughter in the only way she knew how. But at the same time, Kalista just wished that her mother would have been on her side. So it gave her these complicated feelings about her mother.
Yeah. I mean, nothing does damage quite like a parent who thinks they're doing what's best.
Yeah.
But they never usually do in these stories.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and Where the Heart Is, you really get to dive deeply into Clary's mindset. And she is somebody who had the best of intention, especially where Fra was concerned. And she wasn't abusive or anything, but it's often what went unsaid that caused the most problems for him later on in life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Top 10 conversations we probably should have had before all of this went down.
Yeah. Fortunately, she manages to write a letter, which I guess is, you know, at least, hey, I never actually said the words "I love you," and that was a mistake. So at least there's some type of closure there for him.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing with the whole thing I was talking about in my novella with the whole line of abuse and the timeline they're in, the position they're in. Like, Clary loved Fra like her own, but the king would only let her do so much because these other kids weren't her kids, even though she wanted to be this mother figure, mostly to Frog, because the other kids were, well, monsters in a way. Sorry, but they were.
No, they were.
And
she tried with them. She definitely, clearly tried very hard.
she did.
Frog.
But with Frog, Frog really became like a son to her, and I think Frog saw her as a mother too. But they were both afraid because of their father that they were never able to really get to that point where they could call each other mother and son or say "I love you" because he might do something.
Right. I mean, you're in a situation where love it becomes a danger if it's known or expressed, and that's always a tough situation to try to navigate.
There was this conversation recently in the Queen of Monsters that Kalista will end up using when she's talking to Ayana, probably either in this chapter or in a couple chapters. But Rain tells Kalista that they're pretty sure that Caleb might have had a thing for Kalista, which Kalista did not like because he was obsessive, he was abusive, he obviously tortured her, and in the 10th novella it's implied that he did other things to her, very, very dark things. That the novella got really dark. But Rain tells her that Caleb, like, he was doing so much, he needed Kalista to create vampires and then used Kalista to create other vampires. But as soon as she escaped, he didn't need her anymore. His job was done for his vampires, at least, because his goal was he actually created like almost every single monster alive by doing more or less the same thing he did to Kalista. And so he created Kalista, got her to create other vampires, and then she escapes. And he didn't really need her anymore, but he still constantly went after her because he was obsessed with her.
Yeah, he's a typical, he's the prime definition of a predator.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of complicated family dynamics, though, I enjoy the exploration of Lucinda's family, in particular in Tower of Memories. I mean, the complexity behind the characters is really fun to read and really interesting to see unfold.
I mean, it's one of those things that, like, once you get all the information, you're like, you see why she ended up picking someone who's as, like, simple and straightforward as Victor is,
Yeah.
Oh, that situation's a mess. I mean, you're going to get more details, Johara, in book 3, but yeah.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for book 3 and 4. I've just been so focused on this book that I haven't done any reading.
No, you're good. I get it. I'm just...
Yeah.
But I am so excited to read those once this book is, like, done. I'm going to definitely catch up on reading a little bit as I start writing the Scooby-Doo retelling, and just because I really want to read the rest of your series. Like, I'm so excited for it.
What's kind of funny to me when I think about it in hindsight is I knew Ruby as a character was going to have the scar that she has before I knew who she, like, was to Lucinda. Because I first imagined her as just Jarek's mom. Her being Lucinda's sister didn't come until way later. So that was not planned from the beginning, but the scar always was. So I was like, what would make this hurt extra more and would pretty much definitively answer the question would be if she is, Lucinda's sister.
I love that the questions all three of us tend to use is, what would make this situation hurt more? Right? What you were just talking about with, like, Caleb and everything. Let's see. He's done all this stuff to her. So how can we make this hurt more? Now you have this added level of obsession with him, which just, oh my God, poor Kalista, right?
Yeah.
And the added implications that he raped her. There was that too.
Absolutely. And because the scar would have been bad enough, but having that nice personal touch there just...
Yeah. it really answers the question of why she decided to raise her daughter on a different continent from the guy who did that. You're like, yeah, you know what? That makes complete sense.
Yeah. Also, why there's been, her reaction, or like her relationships in magical world, and then also because of that, Seraphina's relationship to the magical world,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's just so many layers, and you think and then more gets revealed, and you're just like, I thought this made sense before, and now it makes even more sense.
Yeah. The other part of that to me is also kind of meant to answer the question of like, why don't they just ask him about the curse? Because they know where he is. They know what prison he's in.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be very easy for Vivian to just like sign a couple pieces of paperwork and sit down and talk to him. But she's like, no, that's too risky. He doesn't know Seraphina exists right now. Let's keep it that way if we can.
Or does he?
It's always so interesting because it's like, as authors, we have to really think about these extra things, and sometimes they come to us in the moment, but sometimes they're really well developed from the beginning. And sometimes you have to ask yourself these questions to understand your characters better, even if they don't make it into the book. I know.
Okay.
I wasn't sure I was ever going to add the whole part with Caleb, raping Kalista. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to add that, but it's something I've been thinking about since since I was writing throughout the novellas, and it was delving more into like her trauma with Caleb. And it's like I had this one question myself. I was like, what odds is it that a man as twisted as Caleb would not do that? Especially since he had her kidnapped for like a century at least. Like, what are the odds that a disgusting twisted man like him just wouldn't do it?
Yeah, you already set up you established his character so much ahead of time that it really, when the reveal came, it's devastating. You don't want to think this would happen to anybody. But it was sort of like equal part shock because it's shocking, but also like you sit back and you're there going,
yeah,
you could see it, right? Like with that type of character.
Yeah, it's that moment of just like, I hate it, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And that's why I wasn't sure I was ever actually going to add it. I just knew that it happened until I knew what the last novella was going to be about survivors and stuff. And I was like, okay, now I probably should add it.
And you did it in such a great way too. Like, I felt like you were handling it very respectfully, especially with a subject matter like that. But also for me, the way you have her talking to these mythological creatures, right? These stories that are so old, even from our own world, and the idea of how long this has been a thing, how long this has been, something that women have had to live with and people have had to live with. And it just made it all that more impactful in the way you were talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, you dealt with some deep stuff. I mean, obviously, I talked about all the deep stuff you dealt with Water's Edge, but then there was also An Impossible Dream, because the same thing happens to Elspeth.
Yeah.
And I love the scene with Henry and what he did.
Yeah.
Because he kind of had it coming, and it's like I felt like you dealt with it respectfully too, especially since it was like you're in like Sarah's point of view, so there's only so much you can do with a side character. But I feel like you dealt with it really respectfully and really well, considering like what she was going through.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I really want to make sure that when I write about this kind of stuff, that it's dealt with like that.
Yeah, me too. Because this stuff is very serious and very,
all the respect in the world for both of you for handling those kinds of topics. I'm not brave enough, to be honest.
I honestly never thought I would handle a topic like this, but here we are.
Yeah. My rule with that has always kind of been like, do I 100% need this to tell the story I want to tell? No, then I'm just going to not for right now.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
100% fair.
Because it is a hard topic
to say I won't ever, but like as of right now, I have no immediate plans to.
Yeah. which is understandable because it's a very hard topic to deal with, especially, we're women. We have to fear stuff like this all the time. And it's like, so it can be very hard to really bring this stuff up. And it's like, it is a thing that's very serious and we want it to be done respectfully. So it's like, we're handling it very sensitively, like very slowly, trying to make sure it's handled well because it's a topic that needs to be handled
And
well.
something more than just a plot device.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason we're talking about these things.
Yeah. And that's the big thing for me is just like, if I don't want to do it until I'm 110% sure that I can do it correctly,
Yeah,
with all of the heavy seriousness and respect it deserves.
Yeah.
I have
The
a lot of
closest I
respect
think
for
I'll
that.
ever get is somebody getting somebody liking a character who isn't really going to ever like them back, and the awkwardness around that. So,
But yeah, that's why I wasn't sure I was ever like, even it's like one of those things where you need to understand your characters even if these details don't get into the book. And
Right.
so I wasn't sure I was ever going to actually mention it because I was like, I didn't want to just throw it in for no reason at all, even if I knew it didn't happen. If it was brought up, I wanted it to be properly dealt with. But then I was trying to come up with ideas for what the last two novellas were going to be about. Because from when they talked about Joan's death before, it was mentioned that Calista was in the underworld when it happened. So I knew that she had to be in the underworld for the last novella, and I was trying to figure out what. And they also mentioned Medusa, so I knew it had something to do with Medusa. And the next thing I knew, it became a whole thing about survivors. I was like, okay, I can deal with this properly, and mentions Callista's trauma she's been through. So I was able to talk about it in a respectful way without just kind of throwing it in and forgetting about it like it was nothing, because it's not nothing.
I think that's also one of the cool parts about writing a series is you have all these bits and pieces that kind of converge together, especially if you're writing or things that have happened like before in the timeline. So like in jumping around in jumping around in the novels the way I have been with When Morning Comes takes place like after B, but in Impossible Dream, and Where the Hardest take place before B type of deal, is you get all these pieces and then you're just sort of trying to like put it together and see what you can make of it. I think it's the closest I've ever gotten to plotting.
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I didn't know how detailed I was going to cover them, but I mentioned the trials in book 1, and I'm like, we don't have any details about them other than they're like a thing. So that gave me a lot of freedom to like, okay, how do I fill this out? How do we make this work? And what plot elements need to be connected to it?
Plus, I imagine there's an element too of each one of Dragon Tower is going to be participating. So I have been picturing that it like plays into what each of their strengths are in some way. Okay.
Well, it's one of those things. It kind of does, but not the strengths you might be thinking of, if that makes sense.
That is awesome. I love that.
The thing is that I always knew going in, like, they're not gonna get like first place. I knew that, like, as a tower. But there's a lot of things going on with the trials right now, so I'm gonna try and explain this. The implication that's both kind of like stated outright and heavily kind of not directly talked about, but talked around, is that each of the trials is kind of meant to almost represent like a myth or legend about the founders. So each one is kind of named after, and like,
Ooh.
So, I mean, we don't get the whole like list, and we don't get like specifics of the stories, but you look at the event and you're like, okay, this is related to a thing that happened. That's like, because to me, the founders are kind of meant to be like this internal mythos for the school, what they did, what they went through. So obviously, considering our connections to a certain one, and well, a certain pair of them, those are kind of a big deal.
That's
and yes,
awesome.
Seraphina is doing Malkargs, so that's going to be fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
How much planning do you guys do for your books? I know I don't think Ellie does that much planning. I think most of it just comes.
Yeah, my method is I write what comes. I put it in a manuscript where I think it will fall. By the time I think I have the vast majority of it, I start quilting everything together, which might include moving things around and cutting things and adding things. And yeah, that's pretty much my method.
I do somewhere between more planning than some would think, but far less. Because what ends up actually happening is because I do write all of these in order, in like chronological order, but I always I have like a whole like thing of like a bunch of notes that I take. So when I'm trying to figure out what to do next, I just go back to my notes and pull like this piece plus this piece equals this really cool thing that's happening. You know,
it's kind of like making a potion or a spell.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, I mentioned that there's this trials stuff, so let's bring that into this last book. It's like our big end of school event, because let's have one, because that's a fun thing to just have.
Yeah.
But also considering what's currently going on, like main plot wise, let's also tie it into like the founders and certain characters. Because
Nice.
Yeah. I love when you have like those layered things like we were talking about with Callista's name. So like the idea that the trials, you get to learn a little bit more about the individual characters of Dragon's Tower, but you also get to learn about the mythos, like the piling and layering of different things conglomerating together is just utterly delightful.
Yeah, I think about my stories a lot. So a lot of times random ideas will pop in my head and I'll put it down in the folder in my phone for that particular book. So it's like I have some things planned that I know I want to happen sometime in this series. I don't even know if it'll happen in book 1. It's just gonna happen in the series. And then I'll be writing and then the rest of it will just come to me. And whenever I get a new idea, I'll be like, okay, that I can't write that down yet. I can't write that scene yet because I'm not there yet, but I'll write it down on my phone so I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, another one of those for me has been during one of the echoes. I don't remember which one. I don't remember which chapter it's in, but it's in one of them. We see that Red has these weird scars that Seraphina doesn't have yet. So I always like pondering that question of like, okay, when and how?
Yeah.
Is a question I'm going to need to answer at some point.
Yeah.
I think I have over 2,000 notes in my phone on my notes app. I've started creating separate folders for each thing to try to organize them better. I'm still in the process of organizing them. And I still very often have to like search a word or two that I remember from a snippet I wrote to be like, okay, I need this snippet for this moment that's tied to these other snippets I'm currently writing. And then it turns into this like great treasure hunt of notes app plus multiple notebooks strewn throughout my house.
I have a very messy like Google Docs document that, maybe I'll if I do ever show one of you, it will be like in private. I cannot show this to public because there's spoilers everywhere in it because it's notes to myself. But it's fun. It's everything from list of spells to what colors named characters have to what towers people used to be in.
And I think it's important to have these lighthearted moments too, because so much darkness is happening in our stories.
Yeah.
I know my series has gotten serious, but I know, like you said about having that party because it's just fun. Like there's 2 celebrations in the Queen of Monsters. There's Day of the Dead, which Roxanne plans for Calista because it's mentioned that Calista doesn't know that much about her Mexican heritage because she grew up in Greece and everything. So Roxanne was trying to plan that for her and try to get to know more about her heritage. So there was that. But there's also, what did I call it? It's Monstrum Regni, which is the day the realm was created. It's Latin for Monster Realm. And it's the holiday of the day the realm was created. And this year is 500 years since the realm was created. So it was extra special. And they definitely wanted to... It ended up being a little bit about a heist too, because they needed to stop Ayana's plans. So they used this party to stop Ayana's plans. So there was a heist too. The party was still fun.
Oh yeah, like look at this stack of paper. This is just Masquerade. This is
That
10
is so
chapters
awesome.
of Masquerade. I don't know why I made it this long.
But we are so happy you did.
Well,
Oh
we
yeah.
all we all have that because I know in the Vampire's Creation, which was book 2, there was 10 chapters in a row that was just Callista's past, so that you really, because up until then you hear things here and there about Callista's past, but this actually shows you what Callista's past was like, her torture, everything with Caleb and Thana, and so there's just 10 full chapters of Callista's past.
So, in When Morning Comes, Fra and Sarah need to officially be crowned. It has to be official, especially because Fra was never supposed to be heir, and Sarah was a servant. So, in order to protect them and their son, they have to be crowned, and they have to be wed. And it's taken me more than 200 pages in just When Morning Comes to get them to the point of the wedding. And it's probably going to be even more because there's other things I still need to add.
Well, in your defense, it's a royal wedding. It's supposed to be a big deal. So
Yes, we'll go with that as the excuse.
Because in Queen of Monsters, there's also Isabella has to be crowned because she's the rightful heir.
Right.
So,
Oh
and,
my gosh.
and I was debating if I wanted to have her wedding with Jeremy or if I wanted to add that for like a short story later on. Because I mentioned about doing the short stories like you plan on doing, Ellie.
And
And
I'm looking forward to them.
because I think it'll be, because there's a couple stories I like the idea of readers getting to see, but I don't know if I'll be able to fit it in the Queen of Monsters. One of them being Jeremy and Isabella's a wedding, because like you were saying with traditions and stuff, like each monster has their own traditions of how things will go. So it'll be interesting to see
that's so cool.
which wedding. And I also kind of want to see. I want to see where Kalista meets Roxanne's family.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
But there's no way that's happening in this book because it's almost at the end. There's the climax and the happy ending to get to. There's no way I can add that scene in this book. That's why I wanted to do a short story collection, because that was the first scene I thought of that I wanted to add.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Kalista meeting Roxanne's family. I feel like that could be disastrous but hilarious.
Disastrous in the best way, though.
Especially
disasters are fun.
Yeah, especially since you only actually see Roxanne's family once in that one chapter at the very beginning of the realm.
Yeah.
When she moves to the realm, that's the only time you get to see her family, and her family's actually barely mentioned in all 3 books.
So wait, would they be going to the monster realm, or would Kalista have to go to the human realm again? Because I feel like that's going to add so much either way.
I thought about it, and I kind of want her to go to the mortal realm to meet the family, because like there's only 2 of them, whereas Roxanne has a big family, so that'll be like a lot of people to come into the monster realm and stuff. But I wanted like Kalista to be able to see Roxanne's home, her childhood home, see how she grew up and stuff. Add that, and also because Roxanne's family has barely been on, and she only found out she was bisexual after she moved to the realm. Her family doesn't even know about her sexuality, so there's also this whole coming out element that'll have to happen.
Interesting.
Oh boy, that's one way to tell your parents.
Yeah. Hey,
Here's my 1,000-year-old vampire girlfriend who isn't nearly as scary as she looks and acts.
Be honest. Don't mind the half dozen knives sitting in her shoes or whatever.
The red eyes, the sharp pointy teeth.
I love the idea. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Grey's Anatomy, but there was a scene when in season 5 when Derek's mom shows up, and Meredith is so worried about meeting his mom, and I really want Kalista to be like so awkward and so weird about meeting her family, because she's never really had that with a relationship. Most of her relationships didn't last long, and the one with Joan, it wasn't exactly a come meet my family situation.
Yeah.
So this will be like all new to her, and so I definitely want this added like with Meredith, because you know how Meredith can be all dark and twisty, and so there'll be this added like awkwardness and like trying to want them to like her, but also being awkward because she's not good at meeting families. So
You know, The other thing about Callista that I loved with Joan was how sweet she could be about honoring Joan's roots and everything. And so this idea that she's going to get to see where Roxanne comes from just so feels like in line with that element of sweetness Callista has too.
Yes, she can seem hard and cold, but you definitely see Calista's sweet moments whenever she's alone with either Marissa or Ray, and you saw it with Joan. You even see it with Isabella and Henry. Like she has those sweet moments, and once her and Roxanne really start getting close in this book, you definitely see some of those sweet moments with her as well, which I think was important to add, because if they were going to have a relationship, Calista would have to let down her walls a little bit with Roxanne and really let her in and show that sweet side to her. So that was
She's
lots
like Devil's food cake.
I mean, you're not wrong.
She looks all dark and everything, but it's so sweet.
But yeah, so a scene I've been really wanting to write is Calista meeting Roxanne's family, but I was like, there's no way this is happening in this book. Too much happening, not enough time.
So, part of what inspired the short story collection for the B series is all these characters. You have all these like secondary characters and everything, and they're kind of like, well, let me tell you about my story. And there's no time for some of that. So
there's not. That's why the intermissions exist.
Yeah. So, for instance, there is somebody very important to Gracelyn that is kind of hinted at in Impossible Dream. It's sort of said in passing that becomes a huge part of her story in When Morning Comes. And these new characters who are tied to that character that's tied to Gracelyn decided to tell me their entire life story, so now they're going to get their own short story. Yeah.
It can be hard sometimes because like there's these scenes you want to add, these characters or whatever, and it's like there's not enough time because so much has to happen. So it's like sometimes the only thing you can do is like an extra novella or a short story collection. And that's why when you told me your idea of a short story collection, I was like, oh my gosh, I could probably do that with Realm Monsters, because you're getting so much of Calista's past. What happens after the Queen of Monsters ends? Like there's still Isabella and Jeremy have to get married. Like Calista has to meet Roxanne's family. So like there's just so much I feel like can still be dealt upon that you won't
You could have so much fun with that.
Yes.
I have to go now, unfortunately. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'll see you guys all next time.
Awesome. See you next time.
I don't know how long you can stay. I might have to hop off soon because dinner will be at 6.
Yeah, I should probably go. My dog probably needs to go outside.
Okay, well, this was a lot of fun. We have to do it again.
Yes, I always enjoy these, and I cannot thank you enough. It's always a blast.
I love doing these. I was actually thinking about adding on Discord a group chat of you, me, Alyssa, and Adam.
Oh, that would be fun.
We could all so we can make plans instead of me sending the link out separately, and we can just like make plans and talk about our writing and stuff like that.
That sounds awesome. I'd be all for that.
Okay, so have a good night. I'll chat with you later.
Talk to you later. Happy writing.
You too.